All about Helen Keller. Early life. Helen Keller was born on June 27, 1880, in Alabama. She was born a healthy child. When she was 19 months old, she got very sick. This illness caused her to go blind and deaf. That means she could no longer see or hear. This made it very difficult for her to communicate with her family. So she had her own signs that she could use to tell people that she wanted her mom or dad. When people didn't understand her, she often became angry and threw tantrums. Annie Sullivan. Helen's parents searched to find someone to help her communicate. They found Annie Sullivan. Annie had once been blind but had her sight restored. They thought she might be able to help Helen because she had been through such a unique situation. Annie fingerspelled the words for Helen in her hands until she began to understand what they meant. Then Annie went on to teach Helen Braille. Annie Sullivan would be a companion for Helen throughout her entire life. More learning. Helen had the ability to speak, but since she couldn't hear words, she couldn't mimic or copy sounds she heard. Sarah Fuller taught Helen to speak. Helen would rest her hands on Sarah's lips to feel how they moved and hands on her throat so she could feel the vibrations. In time, Helen learned to say words and eventually sentences. Helen eventually went to college and she graduated in 1904. During college, Helen started writing about her experiences, being both deaf and blind. She went on to write 12 books. This video is of Helen Keller in 1954. You can see how she learned to communicate with the use of an interpreter. Even though she could speak, many people still had a hard time understanding her.
In this room sits a remarkable woman. She is Miss Helen Keller. She does not see the room or the book that she is reading. She sees nothing. She does not hear the rustling of the curtains behind her. She hears nothing. She is deaf and blind. But if you enter a room, she will know it. Your lightest footfall will tell her you are coming. It will even tell her who you are, if she knows you, as she knows her old friend, Polly Thompson. Polly has been with Helen Keller 40 years. For nearly half of these, she has been Helen's only companion, Helen's eyes and ears upon the world. She talks with Helen by a finger system in which each letter has a sign, like this. In reaching out beyond her dark and soundless night, Helen depends most on touch. Two other senses remain. There's taste and there is smell. Scent, the scent of objects and places and people, tells Helen much that we learn with eyes and ears. But her hand is her chief link with the outer world, with Polly, with Anne, the part-time helper, with everyone she encounters. With her hand, she reads Anne's lips. She answers with her voice. It is an unnatural voice, and it is her great sorrow. For all her years of effort, Helen has never learned to speak clearly. This isn't strange, for since she was a baby, she has not heard a word spoken, nor seen lips forming one. But let Helen, with Polly's help, tell you.
It is not blindness or deafness that brings me my dark hours.
It is not blindness or deafness that bring me my darkest hours.
It is the attitude that I put meant in not being able to speak normally.
It is the acute disappointment in not being able to speak normally.
Longingly, I think how much more good I might have done if I had only acquired natural speech.
Longingly I feel how much more good I could have done if I had acquired normal speech.
But other than this sorrowful experience, I understand more fully.
But out of this sorrowful experience, I understand more fully
Human striving
all human strivings,
throughout and ambition.
thwarted ambition,
And the infinite capacity of home.
and the infinite capacity of hope.
Helping others. As Helen grew older, she wanted to help other people like herself. She wanted to inspire them and give them hope. So she joined the American Foundation for the Blind and traveled the country giving speeches and raising money for the foundation. Later, during World War II, she visited with wounded Army soldiers, encouraging them not to give up. Helen spent much of her life working to raise money and awareness for people with disabilities, especially the deaf and the blind. She felt this was her civic responsibility. What is civic responsibility? Civic responsibility is the active and informed participation in a community. It is being committed to the community with a focus on the common good. We must have civic responsibility for our democracy to function. Civic responsibility, simply put, is the responsibilities of citizens. These are just a few examples of civic responsibilities: following the laws, serving the community, improving the community, paying taxes, attending school, serving on a jury, such as jury duty, voting, and many of the things we have learned about in this unit have been examples of civic responsibility. Can you think of any? Many of the people we have learned about this school year have exemplified civic responsibility. Can you think of any?